Dubey sir, please unmute and start.
Okay. So good evening, friends. It's a pleasure to be back again this Sunday. And our speaker this evening is Miss Mina Martini. She's from Finland. So first of all, I want to extend a very warm welcome to Mina ji for accepting our invitation and being with us. Mina ji is going to talk to us on It's All About Love. Most of us know Mina ji because she has spoken before this group even earlier. For those who are hearing her for the first time, I'll briefly introduce her to you. Miss Mina Martini describes herself as a person who, since an early age, always felt an uncompromising need to inquire into the fundamental issues of existence. The choiceless and all-encompassing nature of this inquiry could not but naturally lead to the questioning of the nature of the mind itself instead of dealing with its manifestations and expressions, which we know as the world solely. At the age of 17, her questioning had reached a crucial point at which she was ready to discover Krishnamurti's teachings and also be radically and irreversibly changed by them. She is now 59 and lives in Finland, where she also teaches foreign languages and works as a foster mother in child welfare. So with these words, I want to thank Mina ji once again for being with us. And ma'am, as you know, you can speak for about an hour, leaving about 25-30 minutes for people to ask questions. So you can begin your talk now. Mina ji, please. Unmute yourself and begin.
So let this hour, or how much it might take, be a timeless one.
Yes.
So thank you from heart for having accepted me here, invited me here for the second time. At the same time, there is this inner knowing that life is making this happen. Life is making this happen. And as one realizes oneself as the totality of life, it is also understood that oneself is creating this. Not as a separate doer, but rather as allowing it to happen. So what I came to do here with you is to be with you. So that the doing is rooted in the beingness itself and does not appear as a separate thing at all. So I came to share with you the beingness that we all are in our core, in our essence, from moment to moment. And when I say from moment to moment, as far as words are concerned, this expression still suggests somehow that there is one moment, another, something that is changing from one to another. But in this beingness, there is no such change at all. Because there are not things in it. No thought, no things. So it is not in that change, in that sense, it cannot change from one thing to another because there are no things, it has no content. So it is the unchanging one. This one limitless, eternal moment is the unchanging one. It doesn't mean that there is something in there that doesn't change, or that there is something in there that changes, because that would be the case in duality when there is the observer and observed. There's something that doesn't change, something that changes. No, this beingness is beyond both change and not change. Beyond the world of thought, of divided thought, in other words. So here we're pointing to the total negation of the reality created by thought. And when I say thought, I always mean the observer-observed division. In other words, that means reaction of fragments of thoughts to one another. That is the fragmented movement of thought. So in that sense, I didn't come here to talk about a subject for an hour and then accept questions in any sense of diverting from this beingness into doing something. Diverting from this beingness in the way that thought does, by creating its own reality, by reacting to itself and creating a lonely pathway, which implies the experience, the creation of time, of becoming, of going supposedly somewhere. And also it creates the one who thinks he's going somewhere. So the observer and observed. So in that sense, I'm not going to talk. And this is an opportunity to observe within ourselves if any such lonely pathway of isolation and sorrow is being formed within us. My hands go like this because it's always some direction that it is taking. But this beingness has no direction. How could that which is whole go to any direction? Because it is simultaneously everything and everywhere. So we'll be catching such thoughts when the mind tries to divert and create its own reality, which ultimately is the child of silence. It is a child, the very creation of this beingness. It wanted to have its own way. So we will catch it lovingly into our arms, the beingness in us. We'll catch it lovingly. Like a small little child, an image of a 3-year-old running away from her mother. And mother sees, now something dangerous is going to happen to her. Mother runs behind the child and catches it into her arms. Compared to my previous talk, for those who happen to be here or listen to it afterwards, there was a plot part in it, as I described it then. The plot was sharing with you my personal spiritual journey, or parts of it, because it's ongoing, of course. And of course, it was done with a profound intention of sharing it without any mental division between us, so that my story is your story and vice versa. But in this talk, not even that story exists. This talk has no plot whatsoever, which is very interesting and wonderful. Because you don't have a story to follow. But instead we can share this beingness now from where things keep unfolding. If you follow something, the verb follow is now showing us something. When you follow something, you must be in a divided state. How can that what you already are, which is the beingness, I keep using this word for now, follow anything? How can it follow itself? It's not possible. It's an impossibility. And that's what thought is, by the way, trying to do in its divided state. It's a pretending division between the thinker and the thought. It's not, it doesn't, this pretension doesn't make it true. And when you don't follow something, you see that it is not possible to follow, but only in a state of division, then you cannot have a spiritual teacher, for example, in the sense of an authority. But you discover, you can discover that spiritual teacher within yourself. And you are that. In the beingness, you are a spiritual teacher. But not separate from the pupil. You are both. Or ultimately, you are neither, in the sense that you are total silence. That's another word that is appearing now to describe the beingness. I would like to thank the founders of this place. I think this is Harshad's channel, because I feel this is a very precious place where one can be what one is. Of course, one can be what one is anywhere, because it's not a matter of location, or fundamentally, one cannot but be oneself. In any case. But yet I feel in this place there is a freedom to flower together. It has to do, I feel, with the, I wouldn't like to use the word intention, but I don't use it in a dividing sense. The energy that founded this forum, for example, it feels to have happened out of love, not out of some some personal interest. And that which is done in love, whatever manifestation it might take, will grow immeasurably. It is going to be a complete success, not in the worldly sense, not measured by some limited worldly measures, but truly, truly so. And it grows immeasurably because it is immeasurable. Love is immeasurable by its very nature. So we are here to be what we already are. It is so simple, so utterly obvious, so utterly everything and fully exposed, not to thought, but to itself, because it's also oneness, that it is already here before any movement of the mind, of thought. That is being what one is. What thought can clearly only do within its fragmentation is to think about itself. Thought can only think, simple enough, right? Thought can only think. And when thought thinks about itself, it creates this observer-observed reality, which is an illusion. But it feels real for the experience of it. And relatively so, we can say, yes, it is real, relatively so. But it is the world of relativity in itself. The beingness, the love, the silence that we talk of is absolute. It is absolute. And from this silence, or this beingness, words start unfolding. It doesn't need any manifestation, any expression by itself. Although all manifestation, all expression, all matter, all forms, all words coming from this mouth now are its own children. It is expressing itself, yet by itself it remains inexpressible. It is beyond manifestation. So when I talk of beingness, I just want to make clear so that we don't get lost in words unnecessarily. So if I talk of beingness, silence, awareness, intelligence, oneness, meditation, because all life is meditation in the beingness, understanding, or perhaps some other words. No other word comes to mind at the moment, but I refer to the same. I refer to the same. I point to the same. And actually, if we are very careful, I have to point out that words are pointers. Okay, the word is not the thing, fair enough. But ultimately, it is not even possible to point to anything that is absolute. It is not possible because it's neither here nor there. There's no road signs, nothing, no sign can take you there. And at the same time, words that spring from this source, there you have another word, words that spring from this source, they are words that are flaming, they are ablaze. I see the flames around the words as they appear, because they come from the fire within. There you have another word, fire within. And in that, there is a different quality in them that you can sense once you get in touch with that which is also beyond. These kinds of words, they cease to symbolize anything. They don't symbolize anything, although they remain symbols. A word is a symbol. But these kinds of words don't symbolize, and they don't represent anything. They flow aligned with the totality of life. And they're unable to look back at themselves. That's another way to describe how observer-observed division is created. They don't turn back to look at themselves. There is never swimming in the same river twice. And these kinds of words that spring from this source, listen with the source in you. They don't think about anything. There is no time, it's timeless. There is no time for thinking about something to take place. The thinking about is the creation of time.
This meeting is being recorded.
So it is thinking without thinking. If we want to maintain the word thinking without thinking, without being conscious of thinking. Yes, that is it. Because if you are conscious of at the moment you're conscious of something, you are in duality.
This meeting is being recorded.
There's no separate experience. What's some problem with the sound, perhaps? There is no separate observer's experience that to be conscious of anything. Which is the ending of the whole of consciousness in its divided form, observer observed, and the discovery of that which I call universal consciousness, in which we are completely one. So can we listen in this beingness, in this silence? When it happens, you don't have an experience of time. Oh, I have to listen to her for an hour. How long is it? You don't get tired in that sense. As Harshad this morning on Facebook pointed out, there has to be freedom to listen. And yes, there you have the word freedom. Freedom is also one of the words I want to add to the list. So in this oneness, in this silence, in this shared beingness that we are, it is beside the point who talks, because there is no who. There's no subject, no experience, and no thinker in the sense of who. And also, there is no who listens. Talking is taking place and listening is taking place. And fundamentally, in the core of our being, it is the being itself that is talking and listening. It is awakening itself from the dream nightmare of separation. So in an utterly fundamental sense, in the beingness that we are, I have nothing to say. I have nothing to say. I have no thing to say. In the sense of having a point to make. That point, any point, would already be some idea of something, which could only be understood in limitation by that idea being turned into one more idea in our minds. And at the same time, it is equally true. I said I have nothing to say. This beingness has nothing to, is not dependent on saying anything, because it is not a thing. But at the same time, exactly because everything, all manifestation, all forms, this beautiful earth, is being created from this source. That is why it is also true to say that I have everything to say or anything to say. Right? Nothing to say is the same as anything, everything to say. No manifestation is the same as all or any manifestation, all or any expression. That is why it was difficult to pick up one theme, because that's the format here. You have to give in a theme, because because it was clear that I could pick up any theme at all. It's not the theme, because all themes are interrelated, are only relatively different from one another. And what matters is how a theme is approached. When I say theme, when I say theme, it could be any manifestation. It could be an autumn leaf that is ultimately pointing, when it's led to reveal its core, its essence, it's ultimately pointing to its matterless core, to its own to this source. It is all witnessing. It is all shouting. It is all fully exposed, telling us what is the source of the autumn leaf of ourselves. It's been a wonderful autumn here in Finland. And an autumn leaf falling from a tree and dancing in the air is shouting. Look at me, look at me, look at my beauty, lose yourself in me. And you see, it is saying that not in the form of words and not out of some self-interest, but only by being what it is. And when you look at it in total attention and leave the beauty of it, dance with it in the air, although your body still seems to be on the ground, then the beauty, you see to the essence of the leaf. You don't see only the manifestation, but the beauty is there because you see with the eyes of love to the core of that leaf. And that leaf is found within you. It is found within you. So looking at the leaf or at any other manifestation in this way, in love, in other words, you're also looking at the beauty of yourself. So any manifestation as matter is a portal to its own essence. And we are portals. Our bodies are portals. It is not possible to look like this with the eyes of love, with the eyes of totality, with the eyes that are beyond manifestation. It is not possible for as long as we identify with any specific form. So what happens in the human brain is that thought form, which is a form, identifies with itself. And then starts to look at the so-called world, which is its own projection, its own creation, as if the world was separate. But the separation is a creation of this thinker-thought division. Both the separation and the experience of it, they all go together. So this silence has no questions or answers. in the sense of creating them from the points to make, in the sense of this observed division, asking within its limits and then answering within its limits. This was something that was touched the previous time we were together. It has no questions or answers. And to realize this, is the only, to realize the whole of the mind, and the mind itself, which is exclusively a creation of fragments, can never realize the whole of, can never see the whole of itself. So that which is the whole of this fragmented mind, either individual or collective, which is the same, is wholeness itself, which then does not see any mind anywhere, or love. It doesn't see this fragmented mind. It doesn't exist anymore. Exactly because it is seeing the whole of it. And the seeing the whole is love. And there lies the transformation. So I could say that could consider this talk a total success, not in the worldly sense again, if after it you had no questions at all. Which doesn't mean that this should happen, but you understand where I'm pointing to. It doesn't mean that questions are not allowed. On the contrary, they will be asked, and they must be asked for as long as they need to be asked, period. In this process of awakening of human consciousness into the living realization of who we truly are. And in this unchanging one, as I described it in the beginning, it's not that we lose our personality, personal characteristics, not at all. We just lose the conditioned robotic existence. And that is when we can truly flower also as unique individuals. Beautiful, beautiful. We already mentioned listening at some point. So it's very crucial how we listen, Yes, I could add this word listening with a capital L to the list I presented earlier. Listening. Listening in this wholeness, with this wholeness. Because otherwise, if the listening comes from the mind, from the thinker thought place, which has got its limits, which is created by thought, so it's the ingredients in there, in this mess, are symbols, ideas, knowledge, memory, and this great mental delusion that there is a thinker there. This false image of ourselves. If we listen like that, we have got some posture, right? some channel, some limited channel, which receives these words, because receives these words and is bound to interpret them. The unknown, another word to the list, the unknown that is expressing itself is then channeled into the realm of the known, into the limitation. It's made dead. It's turned into a solid image. It is petrified. Whereas if you listen with the whole of your being, you are so open that the limit disappears. You are openness itself. There you have another word. Then, instead of creating these mental channels, your body becomes the channel. Your body itself, which is a form, becomes a channel for this energy to flow into human consciousness. So instead of listening to something, we are the listening. Of course, language, by the way, language itself, we've got prepositions like listen to. That's the way we learn to deal with the verb listen. It goes with the preposition to. But when there is no identification with language, language is thought, then the dividing nature of language itself cannot divide that which is whole. The division can only divide itself into smaller fragments, but that which is whole can never be divided. You can keep cutting it into a million pieces, and every piece will be the whole of the universe, the whole of the materialistic universe, and even beyond that. This silence is also infinite potential. It may manifest in any way at all. So if we meet in this source beyond manifestation, and let's imagine that as there is only one mouth, which I mentioned earlier, that we all talked at the same time, which is not very a practical thing, a practical thing to do. But if we did, and we would all be rooted in this beingness, everybody would express it differently, with different words, without any difference being created. Because we realize, because we understand, we are sharing the source of all manifestation. The infinite potential to manifest in any way, form imaginable. The talk the words that are appearing here now have never appeared before. So if we meet again after this, the talk will be different again. This talk is different every moment. It's new. It's new every moment. It is unpredictable. We are this, what is the noun from unpredictable? Unpredictability. We are this ourselves, the unknown. How could that which is creation from moment to moment be predicted? It would be very boring, wouldn't it? So we're dropping the mind. We're letting that mind go. It is in a way the easiest thing to do because you don't have to do anything. But who is the one who dropped that? But I still need to find out before. Drop that. It's easy for you to say because you drop that. Drop any thought that appears. Any thought that appears can be dropped. Even if that was the most beautiful one. Because the source is not dependent on any manifestation. But because thought is incomplete by nature, it is understood that it tries to become complete by adding to its incompleteness through reaction. And that's why it's always under the impression it's also a time that, okay, but I still have one more thing to do before I can be. It is always under this impression. That's why I kept saying drop and imagining different reactions. There's nothing to understand, as was said the previous time. There's nothing that we need to figure out with this little mind. Oh, we can try to figure out things, but what we get is part of the same. Madness, insanity, disorder, lovelessness, separation, suffering, sorrow. It is the love for what is true that is the energy doing this. The wildfire of love. And let that spread within our hearts. Let's throw everything in that fire. Everything. Everything that is not it is consumed in it. We as thinkers, as this false idea of who we are is being thrown into the fire. It's not that the expressions that come from this incompleteness of thought, of thinker, that they are somehow judged as limited, incomplete, this or that, and so forth. Because that, of course, would be one more movement of the mind. It is always some kind of a judgment. That's the way it creates itself. Judgment of what is true, what is not true, this or that, judgment. Instead, all or any expression of limitation, which stems from the division between subject and object, or observer observed, or thinker thought, when such an expression arises, when it is loved, it tends to dissolve and disappear. And how is that happening? Love is whole, is wholeness. And in being wholeness, it has neither the subject nor the object in it, as has been referred to in different ways. It is energy, pure energy of love, limitless. Then it comes into contact with the creation of the limited mind, with the creation of this observer-observed division. What happens? One is an idea of yourself, and the other is what you truly are. Can they coexist? No, 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 no. When that which is limitless, the wholeness that, let's put it this way, the wholeness that sees and the limitation that is seen can no longer coexist. And there lies the transformation of that which appears, it's an appearance, as incomplete, being dissolved in that which is whole. And then it is realized that this limited reality has never been. It's not that there is something that is dissolved into another thing, because that would again be an experience of division. But in love, in the purity of love, it is seen, it is realized that this other, the reality, has never existed, because it's totally absent in it. It has never existed. So the very experience of two different realities, if there is an experience of two different realities, that comes from the dividing mind. Still. And this expression comes to mind, that you live in the world and you are not of the world. And there was some talk about this with Harshad also this morning. How can you live in the world like this? The world is so horrible. You don't, but you don't. You are living in a completely different world, the world of love, compassion. Care. And it has not come about because you have judged the world, you have run away from the world, you deny the expressions of division, violence, suffering, all that. No, that's thought doing it. And when it does it, it creates it, goes on creating suffering for all of us. Exactly by seeing the whole, and only love sees the whole, is the transformation. So you are out of the world, you are out of the stream of sorrow, not as an experience, of course. You're out of the whole stream of sorrow. How? Out of love, out of love, out of love. They say that love is blind, don't they? But to be blind to the world that is not true, not to see it at all, is to really see, and not only with your physical eyes, beautiful physical, wonderful eyes that can see the physical reality, but with the eyes of love, with the eyes of love. I'm tempted to use the term third eye at this point, but I don't know how it's usually interpreted. But I give no interpretation to it. You may sense what the words refer to. Like all words, they, as was said earlier in a bit differently, all words point to their own non-existence, which is, in other words, point to the source, from where they have come from, and where they come from, where they are born, and in which they die. So the kind of talk that comes from this source does not continue. It doesn't continue because it does not form the chain of reaction, which is the mind mode again, the observer-observed mode. It is the very absence of this reaction. Then that is again the stillness. So nothing is missing, even if no word was phrased. Yes, the thought in its incompleteness, it's understandable that it is always experiencing a lack. It carries the remembrance of its
This meeting is being recorded.
It carries the remembrance of its real source, even when appearing in this twisted manner as a thinker and thought. But it is looking for this wholeness in wrong places. The very act of looking for it is already unnecessary because we are already it. I have no idea what time it might be, but
you can take a few more minutes, maybe another 5-10 minutes.
when my son was little, I remember he might have been about 8. He said to me once, A cat that sees in darkness sees no darkness. So the eyes of love see nothing but love. Let this inner revolution that has been approached, although fundamentally it cannot be approached more than it can be pointed to, let this inner revolution, which is the only revolution which is not a reaction to something, but rather a whole response to the challenge of life, let it happen. Thank you. I think I will end here. And I would like to suggest, if we can have hands are rising. Didn't I tell you to be quiet? Funny, joking. So could we have 2 minutes of silence, and I will switch off my camera and mute myself for, where's my cell phone, for 2 minutes approximately. Would that be fine with you? And then come back.
Yes,
what do you say?
Absolutely. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So see you in a very short while.
Yes. Welcome back. Mina, you have really put it beautifully. And
sorry, I couldn't be here. I couldn't hear anything. Yes.
I said you have put it very beautifully, and a state of living in wholeness without any fragmentation, that is a state of love. I think we can all agree with this. And also a mind which is in attention, total attention. That is a state of love. I don't know. I mean, to me, it seems to be hypothetical because I don't know. I have not experienced that kind of mind or that state of wholeness, because we are fragmented in our daily living, and that's the way life has been. But before I take questions, I'll request Dr. Gajanan Rao, sir, would you like to make some comments? Sushilji, please unmute Dr. Rao.
Who is the one making comments? Me?
No, Doctor.
No, okay.
Dr. Gajanan Rao. Sushilji, please unmute Dr. Gajanan Rao.
Okay, sir.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Rao, please.
Yeah, I only thing is Mina Martini has left us all speechless, really flabbergasted. I have some clue now that in my life, some hard work, homework, which Krishnaji always says to mention, can pay a dividend, not in terms of award, but there is a hope for diligence, the hope for curiosity working, the hope for, as you said, complete attention to yourself and the things around. I was really, some words mentioned, which we casually mentioned, Minaji gave life to them. Like the beingness is something was very, very attractive, and to work, to coming to that. So thank you, Madam.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I have no question. I have no question, except I take a lesson, if you don't mind my word, to do something about the teaching, which we all feel is difficult to crack. I have nothing more to say, Dubey.
Thank you, sir.
Harshad can say something.
Yes, we'll go to Harshad. Sushil ji, please unmute Harshad bhai.
Hey, can I say something? I need to say something.
Yes, please go ahead.
So I'm sorry, I could not understand again. I couldn't understand the quality of the sound is not too good. So how is your name pronounced?
Dr. Rao.
Gajanan Rao.
Gajanan, dear, I could not understand the words, so I don't know what you said, but it doesn't matter. Words don't matter. But thank you, thank you.
Yes, Harshad bhai.
Yes. Are you able to hear my voice?
Harshad sir, first tell
Yes.
what Gajanan ji has said, and then say from your own end.
Not worth it, sir, I think.
But
my position was plain.
But
Minaji has given a clue that one could work on these things, which sometimes you're so frustrated, you just leave it alone. That's what I'm saying. Did you understand, Minaji?
Leaving something alone is not a bad thing. Leaving everything, letting everything be is good.
Yes, Harshad ji.
Thank you, Dubeji, and thank you, Mina. You spoke very passionately, very spontaneously, and speaking from your inner state of mind. And you are not speaking in a step-by-step logical way. And it seems to me that people who are used to listen to Krishnaji, they like a kind of step-by-step looking into the problems of humanity or an individual human being. And Krishnaji was a very good teacher in that sense. And he would ask the right question and then proceed. But I understand that you don't like that kind of step-by-step approach. And I myself also, like you, I don't think that there is a step-by-step understanding that may be a logical understanding, but real understanding, it happens when we are listening with our full attention. And I remember that after Krishnaji's death, Upulji was coming to Rishi Valley, and she had a dialogue with us, teachers of Rishi Valley. And then the topic was about inquiry. And I asked Upulji, what is this inquiry? Does it mean that we go step by step, logical way into understanding something, or there is a different way? Then she asked me, what is a different way? Then I said to her that there is no way. It is just seeing clearly what is happening within us. Then she said, but then how shall we proceed? Then I said, there is nothing to proceed in this inquiry, only to see and let it go. And so she was a little bit disturbed to hear that there is nothing really to inquire, only to see. But after some time, she became very passionate and she appreciated what I said. And she said something about Gandhiji spinning the cotton. And Gandhiji was so much attentive that the thread never broke while he was spinning. That means Gandhiji had a complete attention while he was spinning. So that kind of attention, not to the words and ideas and concepts, but what is behind it. And that requires, it may be difficult for most people. And I feel that it would be difficult for most people to understand what you are saying, because you are speaking about yourself, and people who have not been away from thinking and feeling, and people who try to use thinking to understand, they will get lost in the way you are speaking. But Krishnamurti is a teacher, and he goes in a step by step, and there is a space and silence also in what Krishnamurti is saying, and how one listens while listening, not trying to understand, but while listening, something happens. And that seems to me that the real understanding happens. It doesn't come by a logical way. And I liked what you said, thinking without thinking. And yes, I feel that way, that thinking goes on without the thinker coming. And in that, there is a movement, but there is no psychological time. And it doesn't create any problem, but only from thinking, when this sense of I or me or thinker comes, then there is a duality comes, and then there are many problems happen, the observer and the observed. And I liked what you said, that all topics are interrelated. So your topic is all about love, and that love is nothing but freedom, right? Like freedom from the self. As long as we have this sense of self, then there is a division between me and you, and then that is not love. Only when there is a looking directly without thinking, very, very clearly, with attention, whether looking at a flower or a human being, in that looking, there is a love, beauty, freedom, aloneness, everything is there. And when there is an attachment, which is not love, then that attachment creates jealousy, anger, fear, loneliness, boredom. So all they are related to attachment. So everything is interrelated. And in this field, words are not enough to understand. One has to be really, really silent and not try to understand, but just listening in that something new, and that is the way when I read Krishnamurti first time, I was not asking questions. I was just reading and then closing the book and looking at my own mind. And then I began to be very, very curious to look what was happening. And in that looking, direct looking, there is a learning. And when there is a learning, there is a freedom. And one begins to see how we create problem for ourselves. So I think I have said enough. The whole thing is non-verbal, finally. But we need words to communicate. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Harshad bhai. Sushilji, please unmute Dinesh Waghmare.
Yes.
And you can mute people who have already spoken. You can mute Dr. Rao, Harshad Parekh, and so on. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Are you able to listen to me, ma'am?
Yes.
First of all, I don't know whether I should congratulate you and thank you for the expressions, because the source which you are talking is same. we both are having the same source. So I don't know from where the expressions have come. But, and you have also said, yes, you are right in saying that there are no questions after this. But still, I would like to ask you, whatever in that absolute source, when we are talking, this manifested world, leave aside thought world for the time being, this manifested world is also the part of that absolute source, isn't it? This is also creation of that. And why do we make issue of a thought world then, when we have touched that dimension? Then why do we make even the issue of thought world? That is also part and parcel of that. So if you have really touched that dimension, then your all thought world, while we are in incompleteness, which you said, in that incompleteness also there is a completeness because of the presence of that source which you have touched already, isn't it? What do you have to say?
Again, I have got this. Thank you, dear friend. Again, I have got this problem that I could not understand. Only a few words of what you said. To see towards the end, the last sentence.
Why don't you repeat it, Dinesh?
If you could talk
can I repeat slowly?
Yes, and with few words, if possible.
Okay.
If possible.
When we are talking of absolute source, then all manifested world is also created of the same source.
Yes.
All duality is also created by the same source.
Ultimately, yes.
Thought world is also created by the same source. And if you have really touched that dimension of source, then in incompleteness, what you have said, in that incompleteness is also that source is present. So in that incompleteness also there is a completeness.
Exactly.
So why do we make?
Oh, so can I say something? I will forget.
Yeah, please.
Yes, exactly. This is what was pointed to, that in the incompleteness itself, in thought itself, lies also the essence of thought, which is seen to be the silence, the source. It is not something separate. Yeah. It is in the core of this appearance, this twisted appearance itself. So otherwise, we would be dealing again with fragmentation.
Yes.
It is in that.
So
it is not. Yes.
So why do we make issue of even thought world or this created world also? Why do we make issue of this thought world?
Why do we make an issue of this?
Even thought world, thoughts.
Why do we make an issue of this fragmented reality? Yeah. Because it's illusory. Okay. First of all, it is not being made an issue in the sense of strengthening its separation, okay? Because that would be dealing with it again with a fragmented approach that the mind does. But why do we care? Because it is creating such havoc in the world. The world is in a great chaos. That's why. That's why there is nothing more important.
So duality is also there and non-duality is also there, right?
I think we can close it here, Dinesh. I think she has said enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shakti
Thank you.
ji.
Thank you.
Shakti ji. Sushil ji, please unmute Shakti ji.
Shakti ji,
yes,
please
sir.
come forward and speak.
Yes, sir. You see, when I was listening to Mina,
Where are you?
Here.
Ah,
yeah, yeah.
have we
So-
met?
You must have met
Yeah.
him in Rajghat. Rajghat.
I'm sorry, the last time I couldn't recognize you. And this
No
time I said,
problem.
no, it's him. Yes.
No, it's
We don't care about being
always
recognized.
we
But
are
so
always
wonderful to see you.
always new. No,
Yes, yes.
yeah, yeah,
He's wearing dark glasses. That could be the reason.
yeah. Because I have some problem with my eyes today. They get red, so I'm trying to get safety from computer. Yeah.
Yes,
So
yes.
when I was listening to Mina, I remember when Krishnamurti talks about when thought is not seeing, love is seeing.
Yes.
That is what I recalled. But you see, the problem is this, that like Harshad ji, like you talk about something which is not in the circle of a people like me. For us, this is like something unknown.
It is unknown.
And what happens?
It is unknown here too.
Yeah.
Completely.
So what happens is that to understand what Krishnamurti is saying, for example, love. When I read Krishnamurti said, love is not remembrance. So I stopped using the word love, because all whatever I was calling love was remembrance. It was remembrance. So here in India, in the Upanishads, they talk about Tattvamasi, you are that. And they talk about Brahman and Atman. And it seems so far away. But when Krishnamurti said, you are your anger, so this was a completely different kind of Tattvamasi, which was very palpable, And that's why all sort of people, they become interested in Krishnamurti because of different reasons. It is not to say that, you see, Harshad ji has seen what is involved in thought process. You have about love, and you say about throwing everything in the love. And for me, because love, for me, the meaning is very hazy. So I feel more connected when Krishnamurti says that, can you be committed to be attentive in your relationship? Now that is an invitation which I can at least understand here. And then I can see that whether I am inattentive in my relationship to others, in my relationship to myself, in relationship to, so this is, I think, this question of the idiom. So it's a great feeling arises within when we listen about love. Krishnamurti also talks about sacred, and Harshad ji talks about, I feel so happy that he can remain in a word which has continuous watching. So, but that's that's not a fact for me, and there are so many people like me. So perhaps that's all I wanted to say. It's not a criticism, it's just
Don't worry. Don't
another
worry.
aspect. Yeah, thank you very much.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I
Shakti ji.
say something?
Yes, please.
Yes.
May I say?
Let Mina finish it off and then you can come in. Yeah.
Okay.
And yet it is all about seeing that you are your anger. To use this example, it is all about seeing that you are your anger. It is all about discovering that this human expression, this expression of whatever, jealousy, anger, comparison, all these expressions that come from the dividing self, that you are not separate from them, that you are them. So that is also, this is the observer, is the observed. And so I'm not talking about, this is exactly what I'm talking about also. They're not different things.
Not different things.
Not talking about the reality of love, whereas here is the suffering human being that is angry. This is not so. It is exactly talking about seeing that you are your anger, that you are that you are completely incomplete. The thought is completely incomplete in its expression. To see that, and again with the eyes of love only you can see, with the eyes of wholeness. That is a transformation. So I'm not talking somewhere else. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, may I say something?
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. The problems created by thinking and feeling cannot be solved by thinking and feeling. It requires something different, like what Krishnaji calls choiceless awareness, which is coming out from the plane of thinking and feeling, and that is in a different dimension than thinking and feeling. And as long as this awareness is there, thinking and feeling may be there, but it doesn't create any problem. But when that awareness is not there, then this thinking and creates more problem, and one gets trapped into this maze of thinking. So Dinesh ji asked, and also Shakti ji said, to see that we are not separate from anger, it can be understood intellectually, but that is not sufficient to be free. One has to see it clearly, non-verbally, from this dimension of awareness. Then, and that awareness has to be ongoing. Otherwise, we will get again lost into words and ideas and problems created by that. Sometimes we get caught into arguments with people when we are not aware. So this dimension of awareness exists within all human beings, but it is buried under dense layers of thinking and feeling, and it is a continuously bubbling layer. So as long as we are living in this superficial layer of thinking and feeling, and there is no discontinuity, there is no silence, then we cannot really, that awareness cannot come above the surface and see what the thinking and feeling is doing. So that is our problem. is not thinking and feeling. It is the absence of awareness, a direct looking, non-verbally looking at the things or thoughts and feelings. Okay, I have finished. Thank you.
Thank you.
Last
Thank you.
last question by Pradeep Verma. Please say Dr. Pradeep Verma.
Just
Please come forward.
there is hardly any time. I'll just try to shorten these things.
Yes.
It's all about love, a lovely topic. Then you expressed the inexpressible, Mina ji. Love to me is that connects. Basis of yoga. Connectivity demands harmony, coming closer and flowing together to become one. How can we have holistic vision without love? What appears as division is purely individualistic, but each individual is world, each individual is world also. Universe is in order, a dynamic whole. Only individuals feel love differently or lack of it in their conditioned lives. This is what Shakti ji was also telling. What is our condition? What am I right now? We are all conditioned people. And if you're serving or something of a different dimension, so how it will percolate in these conditioned minds? We are all conditioned minds. Anyway, so, and there is the question of negation in a whole, possibility of a negation in a whole. Then you beautifully described an autumn leaf falling and dancing. I recalled Rainer Maria Rilke when he said, everything beckons to perceive it, murmurs at every turn, remember me. So one can be in that. So what are we is as important than the transformation. We are talking of transformation, but what are we or what am I is much more important. And that is, thank you very much. Sorry for taking extra time, 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. I think we have come to the end of the session now. And on behalf of the Krishnamurti Study Circle Indore, I want to thank Ms. Mina Martini for being with us today. And hopefully in near future, we'll request her again to talk to us. With these words, I want to thank her hugely on behalf of all of us. And next Sunday, our program will be as usual at 11 a.m. And we'll have Mr. G. Gautam from Pathshala. He will be talking on views, ideas, and ideals. So if you're free, please do join us next Sunday at 11 a.m. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Dubey. Thanks to every participant.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good night.
See you. See you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.